Advocate, the Church of the Advocate, is situated on a half a city block in North Philadelphia. It was designed by known architect Charles Burns, who has done some other extraordinary church buildings and other buildings in Philadelphia and across the country. The building is said to be the finest example of a French Gothic Revival-style cathedral in this country. And you really do have to experience it to really appreciate it. It's like walking into Europe when you walk into the Church of the Advocate. The Church of the Advocate is just rich in history, a lot of different ways. Remember I said it's a nationally historic landmark building for the architecture, but also for the activities. And a lot of that refers to, in 1968, there were 3 landmark events. There were 2 Black Power conferences, and this was under Father Paul Washington's ministry. And there was a Black Panther conference, all happened in 1968. In 1974, the Episcopal Church ordained the first 11 women to the Episcopal priesthood. Probably what's most remarkable about that is that that was an irregular ordination, which means that it wasn't sanctioned by the church. But it did later, this church certainly did sanction it. But at first, Paul Washington and those other people who were involved in ordination, they knew they were going against the wishes of General Convention. But they felt as though it was just time that the Spirit was calling them to do that. Paul Washington. I'm not even sure where to start with him. He is a lion of a man. He really was. When I came to the Advocate, clearly that was one of the first icons I was introduced to, Paul Washington. Paul drew people in because he was willing to step out in a way that a lot of people, especially clergymen and women, would have found to be uncomfortable. He took a strong position for truth. And so when I think about the ministry that we have going on now, and I clearly see it as being an extension of Father Paul's ministry, because he started a lot of the things, like the soup kitchen started under his ministry almost 40 years ago. He started the soup kitchen, and it's been running daily ever since. While Father Paul Washington was here, there was also an after-school program. So a lot of the things we have going on now, they're similar to the things that happened then, because they were just simply good works. You simply can't deny that. Paul left a huge footprint. I always say, Paul lived out his legacy at the Advocate. The Advocate is not a part of his legacy. Because for him to live out his legacy here means that the Advocate is still alive and still functioning. And there's room for other people to do some really good work as well. So Father Paul was huge. I didn't know him, I've never met the man, and he's been instrumental in my life because the Advocate is here. And now the Advocate is a part of my life. He came in 1962. He became very involved in Black nationalist things, Black Power type activities, and some of the members of the congregation were opposed to that, and so some people left as a result of that. And then when the murals were hung in the church, those beautiful 14 murals that so poignantly tell the story of the African American experience, and with so much detail and so much truth, some other people left because of that. The Advocate became largely an African American congregation sometime during Paul Washington's ministry. And folks would come in and they would comment to Paul that there were no black images in the church. And because this church was built for a white congregation, as most mainline churches were. Right? And there were two artists, Richard Watson and Walter Edmonds, did the murals. Paul Washington gave them the biblical text for each of the murals. He told them generally that the murals were to talk about or to express the African American experience, the black experience in America. And he gave them a theme for the particular murals, but he allowed the artists to determine what was going to be on the canvas. And the murals were painted in place between 1973 and 1976. North Central Philadelphia, where the Advocate is located, it has been a challenging area for a lot of different reasons. It's high poverty, there's a lot of food insecurity. We know that the educational system, the Philadelphia Public Schools, has been having some real problems lately. And there are serious questions. We know that they're not doing a good job, a strong enough job educating our children. The Advocate is probably different than most average churches. Most churches, mostly they exist for Sundays and for their congregation. And some have outreach ministries, but the Advocate has a social service organization. And a robust social service organization. And I don't think that that's very common across churches. So we have 10 meals a week in our Advocate Cafe, 5 during the day, which mostly is an adult population. And we serve anywhere from 75 to 125 people for that.
I think this is a special place because people know that the folks here care. Certainly the Advocate Cafe is something that's been happening for better than 35 years now. And it's unique because we attempt to create a sense of community, and I think we've succeeded at that. Folks feel comfortable here, they don't feel threatened, they don't feel judged. It's safe, they can trust what they're eating, and they don't meet with the types of stereotypes that people generally associate with soup kitchens.
The Advocate Center for Culture and Education serves children grades 3 through 12, Monday through Friday, in arts, academics, and athletics programming. We have Mighty Writers, which is one of our core programs. We teach kids to write clearly and think clearly, and we feel like if we are able to teach kids to write clearly, then they'll be successful in all other areas of life. In our arts programming, we have partnered with the nonprofit organization Artwell. And Artwell takes students through a process of discovery and what does it mean to grow up. So they're not just creating nice pictures for their parents to hang on the wall, but they're also thinking about their own identity.
Prometheus Chamber Orchestra, a few of their members came to me about 2 years ago, and they wanted to find a way to combine classical music and social justice. And I said, that's interesting. And I knew immediately that this was the place for them, because the Advocate is all about social justice. Right? What they wanted to do was to revitalize the interests of classical music in the community. And so Prometheus is a 17-member self-directed orchestra. It's mostly young people, around 30, 35 in that age group. And they do 4 performances here a year. Open dress rehearsal, which means that people from the community are welcome to come. They don't charge for their performance, it's a free will offer. And usually the week of their performance, they also pay for our soup kitchen patrons as well. What it's all about for me is bringing different groups of people into conversation. When my ministry here is done, I want them to be able to say that Pastor Renee really did some good things at the church, and I really want to try to be a transformative figure in this community and in people's lives. I just think that people deserve the chance to live their life as full as possible, and free of oppression, free of white supremacy, free of all those kinds of things that hold us down. So if I can be instrumental in that, that's what it is I want to do. My sense is that the worshiping congregation really is the heart of the Church of the Advocate. And so even though we have great social service programs, our soup kitchen feeds 75 to 125 people a day, and that's wonderful. We have about 38 kids involved in our after-school program, and they also receive a meal, and that's all wonderful. But this is primarily, it's first a church. And so in order for those social services to be more than just what any other nonprofit can do, the church needs to be the heart and the backbone of that. It's not just about inviting people to come in for worship. It's about how do you live your faith. Do you live your faith in such a way that people have the opportunity to have a changed life, or a better life, or a different life? Do you offer people a safe place, a safe haven? Do children know that they're loved? Is education happening? I think that all emanates from the worshiping community. That's part of living the gospel of Jesus Christ.